Hi, my name is Thais Gibson, and I'm the creator of the Personal Development School. This is your daily breakthrough video, and in this video, I'm going to talk to you about 5 crucial steps to changing covert contracts in our relationships. So this is like such an amazing topic for so many people who are really doing a deep dive into what it means to communicate in relationships, to share their needs, to break down patterns of enmeshment and codependency that are creating, long-standing parts of toxicity in relationships. And so in this video, we're going to cover 5 really important steps that you'll have to move through if you're trying to end codependency, end feelings of resentment, end anger and frustration patterns in your relationships, and feel seen, heard, understood, and connected to your loved ones. So if you're not already familiar, covert contracts have sort of been doing like a little bit of a series on it this week. Covert contracts are essentially these unwritten contracts we have with people. And they're not just unwritten, they're usually not spoken of. So it's sort of this idea that like, hey, if I sacrifice in a relationship, then I'm going to assume at a subconscious level that you're going to sacrifice back for me. And the problem becomes that sometimes people are playing by very different subconscious rules. Sometimes one person is sacrificing under these sort of covert contracts, and another person is like, we're supposed to communicate our feelings and needs directly. And I would think that if you had to say no to something, it's because it's a no for you. And I would trust you to be in integrity to yourself and to be able to articulate your boundaries and your needs. And when one person has strong boundaries and needs and is able to articulate their yeses and nos clearly and in integrity to themselves, and another person doesn't, there's going to be fireworks going off in a relationship, and not in a good way. There's going to end up being patterns of one person feeling frustrated, angry, resentful, hurt, unseen, unheard, all these different things, because they're operating under these invisible assumptions that if I sacrifice and I give up myself and I contort myself into a million different things and in a million different ways to try to please you, that you should obviously do the same because that's what I'm doing. But unfortunately, that's not going to create health in a relationship. And it's not going to create harmony long term either. Even if both people are sacrificing themselves, we're also not mind readers. So both people can be fully operating under covert contracts. Both people can be operating from full codependency and enmeshment and taking on each other's feelings and taking on each other's perceived needs. But the key and crucial word there is perceived, which means if somebody isn't clear and isn't, people are not actively articulating what their needs truly are and what the best ways of meeting those needs truly is, then what's going to end up happening is at some point, somebody's going to fail at the mind reading game first, and it's still going to create resentment and anger and frustration. So think of covert contracts as being these sort of like unwritten, invisible expectations we project onto other people after we've sacrificed something because we're not being fair to ourselves and taking ourselves into consideration and being honest with ourselves, let alone others, about what our boundaries and needs are when we agree to things. Okay. So with that being said, what are 5 steps to changing this if we know this is a part of our patterning and if we see this showing up in our relationships and we really want to create change? Step number 1 is we have to learn to get good at taking ourselves into consideration when making choices. What this actually means is we have to learn to ask ourselves before we say yes or no, is this okay for me? Does this work for me? Do I have enough time for this? Do I have enough emotional bandwidth for this? How does this feel for me to agree to? And I don't mean ask yourself all those questions. Pick one of those. They're all saying the same thing in different forms so that you can pick the one that stands out to you. And practice doing that before making choices. Usually people who've lived under sort of this idea of covert contracts for a long time, usually they've been conditioned to not do this. And in fact, they've usually been conditioned away from this. So it can be something difficult to do. But this is what brings me to number 2, which is we have to practice getting back into relationship to our needs. And we have to practice doing this proactively so that we can articulate them to ourselves, which then enables us to articulate them to other people. So if you don't know what your needs are, if you're sitting going, I don't know, I didn't even know I had needs, you need to, no pun intended, you need to do a deeper dive into this area of your life. You won't have healthy, thriving relationships long term that are, reaching the potential you would like them to unless you understand your needs and unless you learn how to have conversations about your needs. So this is a really important thing. If you want to do a deep dive into this, check out the link in the description box below. There's a 25% off coupon code there. And it gives you a link to our needs course. It gives you a link to our course page, which has our needs course on there, our intro and advanced needs courses, which are all about understanding your needs on a very deep level, very clearly, and then learning to communicate them, learning to receive them, learning to reprogram your fears of expressing them. And so you can do a deep dive into both of those. And the 25% off coupon code also applies to the All Access Membership Pass, which gives you literally access to everything. So check those out. This brings me to number 3. Write out what your fears are of expressing your needs. Sometimes reprogramming is a really necessary step here, as sort of like a 3B, because sometimes we'll have this belief that if I communicate my needs, I will be disliked. If I communicate my needs, I'm being selfish. If I'm communicating my needs, I'm a bad person, because only good girls or good boys sacrifice all of themselves all the time, which is not true. It is just not a true thing. Good people who end up showing up as the best version of themselves all the time are also very good at taking themselves into consideration. So they're not coming from a place of hurt and burnout and resentment in their own lives, because whatever our emotional state is on the inside is likely to spill out onto our external world in a matter of time. So we want to understand, what are those fears, and then how can I do some reprogramming work around these fears so that I don't get stuck in this place of knowing what my needs are, but still silencing myself, repressing myself, or betraying myself by not expressing. Number 4, we can practice expressing those needs over time. We can do a little bit of exposure work if we find ourselves afraid. You can start with visualization and just imagine yourself visualizing and expressing, because your subconscious mind has difficulty telling the difference between what's real and what's imagined. So it can be a way of like sort of expanding out your subconscious comfort zone and then feeling safer to communicate in the moment. But if you're doing that along with reprogramming work, like things like auto suggestion around, I am not a burden, but you wouldn't say not a burden. You would say, I am innocent by expressing my needs. I am good to express my needs. I'm deserving and worthy of expressing my needs. I'm allowed to have needs. Like you would do reprogramming around those statements to imprint those on yourself. And then you'd practice expressing your needs. And those things will go together hand in hand and help you get really clear and build momentum towards healthy self-expression. And then number 5, once you've practiced doing this, you want to actually confirm when you've expressed a need that the other person understands. And you really want to paint a picture of what that need looks like. You may say, I need support, but you have to say, I need support because I need you to take a turn walking the dog. Or I need support because I need you to do the dishes. I need support because you need to be clear and specific, because one person might be like, oh, you need support, I'll give you a hug, when really you needed support through like acts of service, help with chores, help with things that save you time in your life, those sorts of things. And then we can feel like, why isn't it working? Why is the person not doing this? Even when I've expressed, well, maybe you're not expressing clearly enough. And again, people are not mind readers at the end of the day. And it's important to remember that. So these are 5 really crucial steps. This will create a lot of like health and change and longevity in your relationships. This is a really important part of like helping relationships actually last. And if you find yourself hearing this and not really knowing your needs or having a lot of fears around doing this work, my high recommendation for you would be do the Discover, Embrace, and Fulfill Your Personal Needs course. Follow that up by doing the Boundaries course. Then do the Advanced Needs course so you can learn to express your needs and receive and feel healthy and worthy and deserving of doing so. And then you can even do, if you still want to take it a step further, the Codependency and Enmeshment courses inside PDS. Again, there is a 25% off coupon code that applies to the All Access Membership Pass. That also comes with 4 live webinars per week. Hopefully this all makes a lot of sense. Super important topic if you want healthy, lasting relationships. Thank you for being here and for watching. Please subscribe if you haven't already and you are a watcher of this channel on a regular basis. I would super appreciate it. And I hope you're having a wonderful day, and I will see you tomorrow.